Welcome to the Indy Car Dad podcast, where I give you a Mid-Ohio preview. Every race, I do a whole bunch of analysis, some real heavy statistics to tell you who to watch. I know other people out there trying to predict who they want to win or who's going to win, and sort of more like having to do with gambling or just making fun predictions. But what I like to do is I like to find drivers that are going to be interesting to watch. So these are drivers that you should look out for during the race to see how they're doing. Some of them because they're really good, some of them because they're really desperate this week, and some of them because they could be great or they could be a huge flop. So let's talk about who's going to probably be really good this week. The best average finish of any driver at Mid-Ohio is Christian Lundgaard. So Lundgaard has the lowest or best average finish of any driver in the field this week. Second place is Alex Palou. And so far this year, I think Alex has led this category in almost every race. So to have Lundgaard be ahead is interesting. We'll talk about Lundgaard a little more in the future. Second place is Alex Palou. Third place is Alexander Rossi. But I went back 10 years, so there's some really strong finishes back in his Andretti days. I'm not sure if he really is going to qualify to be that, but he's definitely someone to watch. He did finish 6th place in 2024. So, fourth, Will Power is a real interesting driver to watch here. Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin, and Graham Rahal, Pato O'Ward, and Joseph Newgarden. So we're seeing some like Mid-Ohio is kind of a race for veterans. This is a place that has a lot of nuance, and it's very difficult, from what I understand, to master as a driver. So some of the drivers that have driven here many, many times in an Indy car have a distinct advantage. So that's who we're looking for. So look for the old guard to do pretty well at Mid-Ohio. So the next thing we're going to talk about is checkers or wreckers. This is my favorite category of driver. These are drivers that have sort of like won the race or finished second in the race, but then they're also oftentimes finished 24th in the race. The way I find them is they have the highest standard deviation of their finishing, meaning they checkers or wreckers. So, and the checkers or wreckers king in IndyCar is Christian Rasmussen, and he's no different here. He stands out like ridiculously so among other drivers because the guy fails so spectacularly often. So, an actual second place in the checkers or wreckers category this week is Rosenqvist. He has had some terrible finishes here. He's also had some good ones, but he's had some terrible ones. So that puts him in checkers or wreckers category. Marcus Ericsson is also in checkers or wreckers category, which is interesting for him because he's usually a consistent finisher, but at Mid-Ohio, not so much. Marcus also doesn't seem to have signed a seat yet for next year, so that puts him in our next category as well. Other checkers or wreckers players are people I mentioned that do well here. Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, and Joseph Newgarden. Basically, last year's Penske crew is people to look for in that they could do well or they could have a spectacular mistake. So, and then the third category to look for this week are desperate drivers who need a seat for next year. So this is silly season. We're in the thick of silly season. So we're going to be looking for drivers that if they don't do well, something bad's going to happen to their career. So first maybe on this category is Christian Lundgaard. I don't think he has anything to prove this year. He's got 2 wins already, and he's doing really well. But the top seats are closing quickly. So Christian Lundgaard, I think, will want to do really well. He's also got like a little revenge thing going because rumor is he's kind of getting pushed out of McLaren and backfill with Rosenqvist and Scott Dixon. So I imagine that might make him fairly upset. So Lundgaard is someone to watch. He'll probably be driving angry this weekend. Santino Ferrucci appears to be on the hot seat. His performances on ovals have been decent, and he does well in the Foyt car, but he needs to do a little better to secure his seat for next year. There's rumors that young people are coming in with money, and sometimes, no matter how good you are, if there's other people that have money, you might lose your seat. And then the final person we want to see for desperation, and I think this is the most desperate driver in the field, is Dennis Hauger. Dennis Hauger dominated the Indy Next Championship last year, and he landed in a seat at Dale Coyne, which is supposedly sponsored by Andretti. That's the rumor anyway. And the idea that Andretti was paying him to be in the seat and paying for the seat in case Marcus Ericsson didn't work out long term is kind of sounds like what's happening. But Ericsson is doing quite well, and that basically, by Ericsson doing well, has closed a possible seat for Hauger. And the rumor is that Hauger will not have Andretti support next year, and other people are sniffing at his seat over at Dale Coyne and young guys with money. So Dennis Hauger is really looking to make a name for himself. I think he's done really well this year. He's leading the rookie points, but also the team didn't get his car to run at one of the races, so that was crazy. At Gateway, they just never even appeared in the race because they didn't get the car right. Not Hauger's fault, certainly, but that certainly cost him a finish, at least some points. So Dennis Hauger is on the hot seat, as you would say. There you go. Forecast for the weekend is very hot temperatures. There is a chance of thunderstorms on Sunday, which I like a rain race. I've always had. So that might be something to watch for. But otherwise, I think we're just in for a really good road race. So look for these drivers. I'll repeat who they are right now in quick succession. I have Lundgaard, Palou, Rossi, Willpower, and Dixon as the top 5 expected finishers. Then the drivers that are checkers or wreckers: Rasmussen, Rosenqvist, Ericsson, Power, McLaughlin, and Newgarden, those guys. And then the 3 desperate drivers are Christian Lundgaard, who will probably be driving angry, Santino Ferrucci, and Dennis Hauger. So that's my recommendations on who to look for this weekend at Mid-Ohio. I hope you enjoy the race. I'll be there on Sunday. If you see me in the paddock or pits or on the hill, say hi. I'm friendly. Thanks, and I want to meet you.